So long hurdles, this is my only slide on coaching the 300 hurdles or intermediate hurdles. I know Iowa does 400 meter intermediate hurdles. When I practice that, my goal is to only perfect steps. It's not for endurance purposes, because they're already getting their sprint endurance from their lactate work as sprinters. So my hurdlers do sprint workouts just like the other sprinters, and then on like light sprint days, that's when I take my hurdlers over and we do hurdle practice. So it's not anything like extra work. I want to be mindful of that. It's hard to be short and sweet with working intermediate hurdles because 2 hurdles is like, what is it, 70 meters? So if we're doing 4 or 5 reps of that, that can get, pretty high volume pretty fast. So all I want to do is make sure their steps are good and we'll be done. And I stick to that 2 hurdle rule. It doesn't mean I always work 2 hurdles. It's just like maximum of 2 hurdles. You can always work anything you need to work within those 2. But sometimes I want to just work on the first hurdle because the first hurdle in both races, I think, is by far the most important thing. If you get the first hurdle right, more than likely the second hurdle will be right. You get the first 2 right, it's a domino effect. So you'll see it with your hurdler in the long hurdles. If the first hurdle steps are good, the second hurdle steps are good, I promise you they won't die at the end and they won't stutter on the curve. It's just they have the momentum to keep their steps right. And then we never discount on the 300s just because in the 110s your steps are pretty set. If I move the hurdle by 1 baby step or 2 feet, whatever, in the 110s you can adjust within your normal amount of steps, right? Whereas if I mess with the hurdle distance too much in the 300s, that might affect how many steps you take in between, and I don't want to mess with that. I want you to practice the amount of steps that you would always take in the 300s. And then, third notch for boys or lowest notch for girls. I don't need to discount the height either. I do avoid switching legs, which is kind of a controversial take. I'm not against it though. If somebody can switch legs, I think that's a great tool. I always say like, hey, if you can and you're feeling the other one coming up, then use it. That's fine. I just don't want to teach someone to use their off leg because to me that doubles the amount of reps you need to do, and I don't want to add that double the amount of pounding, and I think there's a way around it. Kind of like we've talked about in other presentations today. It might be the best thing to switch legs, but you can get away without it. For example, in between the hurdles to not switch, you need to do an odd amount of steps, and I've never had a hurdler that I could not get to 13, 15, or 17 steps in between. That's for boys, might be a little bit more for girls. I've had a lot of elite hurdlers that were faster than 15 steps that were like, they really had to either push it to get to 13 or dial it back to keep it at 15 steps. And what I found was either one works, because if they went 13, they were really buzzing for the next hurdle. And the momentum gained really helps them. Or if they have to go 15 steps to the second hurdle, they have a lot more energy left to finish the race, and they're able to turn it over just a little bit faster. Either way works. But like I said, if they're a natural switcher, that's fine. If they come to me with experience switching, go ahead and throw whatever leg up works. So like I said, the most asked question that I get is, why is my hurdler dying at the end of the race? And it's mostly asking about the 300 hurdles. I swear to God, I do 10 400 meter repeats every Monday. Why is my hurdler on Friday, slowing down at the end of the 300? And I'm like, well, it's because they're losing momentum by stuttering, stopping, jumping, landing, restarting. I mean, that takes a lot out of you. It's not that they're not in shape, it's that they're losing momentum over every hurdle. And it's just a technique thing that they can fix. 300 hurdle workout would look like for me. This is an athlete that came to me from Peoria area. He was like a 43 flat guy going, I think 26 steps to the first hurdle and 17 to the second. In 2 practices with him, I was able to get him to go 22 steps to the first and 15 to the second. It was just all about really pushing out of the blocks. I think it's really important in the 300 hurdles to go as close to full speed as you can to the first hurdle, but maybe a little bit longer strides than a 100-meter dash full speed would look like. And then to the second hurdle, it just kind of depends. I would like them to be 15 steps. If you're going to have 40 flat, 41 flat or better aspirations, you probably need to be 15 steps in between each hurdle. And some people, that's kind of a stretch to do, and you really have to be efficient with your stride length and everything. And some people are so fast that they kind of have to dial it back and kind of, I say, float to the second hurdle like you would in the backstretch of a 400. And that seems to work out pretty well to get that timing down. So all of my 300 hurdle practices they're just getting that rhythm down to the first and the second, and also kind of adjusting for the wind, right? So the day before a meet might be 30-mile-an-hour winds at our backs. The day of the meet might be 30-mile-an-hour winds at our front, right? And so how do we adjust for that? We practice both, and then we always have a plan like, all right, tomorrow's wind's going to be totally different than today's, so we got to be ready to switch our feet in the blocks to add one step because the wind's going to be in our face. So if we're 22 steps at the first hurdle with our right leg up in the blocks, tomorrow with the wind in our face, we're going to switch our feet and be left leg up in the blocks. And we always practice that the day of the meet as well, just to make sure that that does work out. Sometimes we've made that switch and be like, no, we're fine. Let's just go back. And so it's important, I think, the day of the meet to get this, the first hurdle steps down.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you have 22 and 15, kind of your target for your guys. What's your ballpark for your girls?
Yeah, and it's not all guys 22-15,
right.
but most of them that are like pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, for girls, what I've seen, the good ones are more like 26 and 17.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.